Apple just leaked the iPhone 13. You see that big blown up iPhone on stage? That's it right there. Okay, all stupid jokes and kidding aside, there is a lot that the iPad Pro 2021 does tell us about the iPhone 13. In fact, there were lots of little tidbits kind of sprinkled throughout that April event that give us a lot of information on what Apple is working on next to launch this fall. So in this video, I'm telling you everything that the April event tells us about the upcoming iPhone 13 lineup, what to get excited about, what to expect, and what could really actually surprise us that no one saw coming. Get excited. And a big thanks to Squarespace for sponsoring this video. Squarespace is the one-stop destination for creating a beautiful looking website for your portfolio, hobby, business, and a whole lot more. Stay tuned to learn more. So the April event was very interesting, and there is a lot to discuss on what Apple announced, what they didn't announce, but I think we can all agree that finally we can stop talking about AirTags, at least for a little bit, because they are finally official. But I think before we get into anything about that or AirTags or iMacs or anything else, what's most surprising of all is that Apple actually did release a new iPhone at this event. This wasn't leaked, it wasn't rumored, it was a total surprise to pretty much everyone. There was a new iPhone at this event, technically. It's a new purple color that is making its way to the iPhone 12 and the iPhone 12 mini, which does kind of raise the obvious question right off the bat. What will the colors be of the all-new iPhone 13 lineup? We heard some rumors about possibly an orange bronze color, possibly just for the Pro, maybe even a matte black option as well. It doesn't seem like the Pacific Blue is going to stick around. Maybe it will, but usually Apple seems to kind of recycle different higher-end color schemes for the Pro models. But also there's a question about the lower-end models. What will the 13 mini and the 13 have? Well, maybe this purple color will be sticking around for the next cycle. Maybe we'll see purple replace a color in the existing lineup or be in addition to the existing colors. It's interesting to see Apple do kind of this mid-cycle refresh with a new color, so I wouldn't be surprised if this stuck around with the iPhone 13 mini and iPhone 13 this fall as well. But beyond that, I really do think that the iPad Pro gives us a very good idea of what we can expect with the iPhone, because typically the iPad Pro has features that we will later see adopted on iPhone flagship models, like LiDAR, for example, came to the iPad Pro first last year, then was introduced with the iPhone in the fall, and this year there are some other additional features and some new features to the iPad Pro that I think will make their way to the iPhone 13 and or just the iPhone 13 Pro. Let's start first with the processor inside, because Apple kind of threw us for a loop with this announcement. We expected Apple to release some version of the A series processor that was equivalent to the performance of the M1. We expected desktop level performance with this new A14 chip, presumably the A14X. Apple didn't just give us an A series equivalent, they gave us the real deal. Apple put an M1 processor inside of the iPad Pro 2021, which has no fan, excellent battery life, and is now more versatile than ever. And of course, this gives us the obvious question, will we see an M1 iPhone 13, or probably more likely, an M1 equipped iPhone 13 Pro? And this is an excellent question that I really don't know the answer to, but we can kind of look at what Apple could do with this scenario and see how it would play out. So we know that the A series chips are important to Apple. They've been perfecting them for many years. They've made optimizations and tweaks and performance year after year. And we are expecting Apple to debut the latest and greatest, the A15 Bionic, inside of the iPhone 13 and iPhone 13 Pro. This should be more efficient. It should be more powerful. Every year these chips get better and better and better, and we expect no different with the iPhone 13 lineup. But what about an M1 chip? Could we see Apple put a full desktop level chip inside of an iPhone? I don't think there's anything stopping them. Obviously they could. They're Apple, they make the hardware and the software and, you know, they design the chips. They kind of know how to put all the pieces together. But I don't know if the M1 in an iPhone specifically makes sense. And let me just say this, I am not a semiconductor connoisseur. I don't know all the ins and outs of the intricate details of these processors and these chips, but it seems to me that the M1 is a desktop level chip made for more of a desktop-like device. Now the iPad is not a MacBook or a MacBook Pro, but it does have a much larger battery at play here to work with. And also I think that the activities of the user are a little bit different than what you have on the iPhone. On someone who has an iPad Pro or a MacBook Pro or a MacBook Air or even a Mac Mini or even the new iMac for that matter, they're doing things that are usually a little bit more strenuous, a little bit more multitasking involved, different applications all open at once, while the iPhone is usually more single task, single app focused. I think that Apple just has this A15 tweaked, optimized, and ready to go for the iPhone, and there is a reason they're going that route instead of going the M1 route and putting those chips in the new iPhones. Could we possibly see it? Maybe. I'm not counting it out at all because Apple did, again, kind of surprise us all with the M1 and the iPad Pro, but I just think that chip makes much more sense in an iPad Pro, a more top-level device, which has the potential to be kind of really taxed and used more than it does on the iPhone. Another new feature on the iPad Pro that I definitely think has the potential, the very likely potential to make its way to the new iPhone 13 and iPhone 13 Pro is the improved ultra-wide lens. The current iPhone 12 lineup has an ultra-wide f2.4 lens with a 120-degree field of view, while the new iPad Pro has an f2.4 with a 125-degree field of view. So just slightly wider, but that does make a difference, and it does make sense for Apple to bring that to the iPhone 13 lineup as well. I also think this makes a lot of sense with the new True Depth camera system as well on the iPad Pro. That is a 12 megapixel camera with a 122-degree field of view, a much wider view than what we've had on the iPads in years past. And I also think this makes sense on the iPhone 13 or at least the 13 Pro with that True Depth system as well, because of this feature Apple showcased called Center Stage, where essentially you can have a FaceTime call, you can put your iPad in the corner, and then the iPad will automatically kind of zoom in to you or anybody else that enters the frame and kind of digitally pans and zooms the shot around depending on who's in the shot, where they are, etc. We've seen this on devices like Facebook's Portal before. It is really cool to see in action. I also think this just makes so much sense for the iPhone. So let's say, for example, you have your iPhone 13 or iPhone 13 Pro, and you're on a FaceTime call. You can just put this in the corner, you prop it up on a jar, or you have this in the kitchen, or you put this on your desk and just put it in the corner. It makes sense to have that Center Stage feature be on the iPhone as well. It would work just as well. The FaceTime scenarios where you'd use that would also be just as relevant on the iPhone as it would be on the iPad. This just makes a lot of sense, and I think would be a great addition to see on the iPhone series. Before we continue, let's take a quick break away from the speculation and the rumors and all the unknown stuff so I can tell you about something that I know with 100% certainty. And that is that I really love this video's sponsor, Squarespace. Now, I've actually personally been a Squarespace customer for the past 6 years. It's where I chose to go to build up my first website and my portfolio and really kind of establish my digital presence with a beautiful looking website. And it's also where I've gone to build the applecircle.com, a new secret project, but shh, more on that soon. One of the things I love most about Squarespace, and what actually kind of drew me to the platform 6 years ago, is the fact that they've got a wide variety of beautifully crafted templates perfect for whatever website you want to build. Whether it's a blog, a portfolio, an online store, even just a website for fun, you've got lots of great options to choose from with Squarespace. And also, you've got the option to be as involved or as uninvolved as you want to be. If you just want to create a simple website, drop in a few photos, change out some text, you can have a beautiful looking website in just a couple of minutes. It's also perfect for viewing on computers, tablets, phones. It's all optimized, ready to go, and you're gonna have a beautiful looking website with very minimal work. Or if you wanna really dive in, customize every little thing, you've also got that power and customization and versatility all built in with Squarespace. Another awesome feature of Squarespace is the ability to add a members area to your website. So maybe you wanna offer some exclusive content, some behind the scenes, or just connect with a smaller subset of your audience. You can super easily do that with a members area on your website that you can create with just a couple of clicks on Squarespace. So whether you want to build a website for your blog, your business, or maybe even something just for fun, Squarespace is the place to go to make it happen and make a beautiful looking website. If you want to get started, check out the link down below or go to squarespace.com/theapplecircle for a free trial and use the coupon code theapplecircle to get 10% off the first purchase of a website or domain. Get started today. Start building a beautiful website with Squarespace at squarespace.com/theapplecircle. Another new feature of of the 2021 iPad Pro model, specifically that Big Daddy 12.9 inch, is the new Liquid Retina XDR display. Basically the mini LED display that is much more versatile, much brighter, and much more colorful, and quite the upgrade over the standard LED display that we got in iPad Pro generations of years past. Could we see the Liquid Retina XDR make its way and replace the Super Retina XDR OLED on the iPhone 13 and iPhone 13 Pro? This is a great question, and I'm just not sure. On one hand, there are a little bit of different applications here again. The mini LED just makes more sense on the iPad Pro. It has that ProMotion technology built in. It really gives you a really big, bright, beautiful display. While the iPhone has OLED, which different technologies for different instances. We can go talk all day about mini LED versus OLED, but I think OLED is a great application for the iPhone, specifically because each individual pixel is lit, it gets fairly bright, and gives you an excellent display on your phone. And basically, these are going to be on par. Again, there are different strengths and weaknesses for each technologies, but I'd expect to see a ProMotion equipped OLED display on the iPhone 13 Pro. I don't think Apple is going to make the switch to mini LED. It just doesn't make sense. Also, the reason probably Apple went with mini LED over OLED on the iPad Pros is because that would be much more expensive. It's much cheaper for Apple to build, produce, and sell an OLED on a 6.1 inch iPhone than it is to sell an OLED on a 12.9 inch iPad Pro. Again, different technologies, both are great, but I think iPhone will probably stick with OLED, at least for now. Rounding out the list are some other iPad Pro features that I would just love to see come to the iPhone 13 Pro. Maybe Thunderbolt equipped USB-C, maybe a 2 terabyte storage option, and lots of RAM. All great things that I just don't think are going to happen. We know that Apple is expected to stick with Lightning and not USB-C, so there probably won't be any Thunderbolt Lightning port making its way to the iPhone 13, just not gonna happen. And the 2 terabyte option sounds great, but right now we're hearing that the iPhone 13 should get a 1 terabyte option, at least with the Pro end model, so expect a nice bump from what we have now, but don't expect any crazy jump up to 2 terabytes in capacity. Again, unfortunately, probably just not gonna happen, though it's nice to see that it maybe could in the future if the iPad Pro is any indication. Finally, we just gotta talk about it. Let's just briefly touch on AirTag. Nothing initially here on the surface that gives us any indicator to what the iPhone 13 could have or what it could be, but I do think that this does kind of double down the idea that Apple is very committed to this U1 technology. This ultra wideband technology, Bluetooth Low Energy, is going to be very important, and I would keep a lookout for any improvements we see to this in future iPhones, possibly even as soon as the iPhone 13. Maybe we could see a U2 chip inside that would be able to have a greater communication distance. Maybe it can push more data back and forth. Maybe it just gives us some kind of next generation capability or new feature with the next gen chip that could give us a little bit more to work with AirTags and other accessories and different devices in that ecosystem. Again, nothing set in stone, no rumors, nothing concrete, but I do think, again, it just reminds us that Apple is working on this technology and it will be very important, and we should see incremental upgrades to this as the years go on, and possibly, again, something with the iPhone 13. AirTags is obviously, it's here. Finally, it's very important to Apple, and I'm sure they're going to showcase it and what it can do very well and very specifically with the new iPhone 13 if there are any big changes to that U1 chip inside. And I think that's about it. A lot to dissect from that April Apple event, and a lot of good clues and a lot of good features that could hopefully make their way from the iPad and maybe even some from the iMac and AirTags to the iPhone as well. What are your thoughts on that April event? Do you think that we could see a lot of those features from the higher end iPad Pro make its way to the iPhone 13 lineup? Would you like to go from OLED to mini LED? Would you like to go from an A series chip to an M1 in the Pro end iPhones? Does that make sense to you? Why or why not? Please let us know in the comments down below your thoughts on the event and what we could expect to see with the iPhone 13 and what you are most excited about with that lineup of phones. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. I'm Robert Rosenfeld with the Apple Circle. Thank you very much. Thank you. And I will see you guys in the next one.